The smell reached me before my eyes could make sense of what I was seeing. I've been walking beaches my whole life. I know the smell of low tide, that heavy, biological rot that clings to the inside of your nose for hours. You get used to it. You stop noticing it. But that morning, something underneath the salt was different. Something closer. Warmer. I should have turned back. It was a Tuesday in late November. The kind of cold that doesn't announce itself. It just settles into you, quietly, like it belongs there. I'd driven 2 hours to reach that particular stretch of coastline. No parking fees. No crowds. Just a long, empty corridor of grey sand where the water never seemed to move the way it should. I had maybe half a mile left before I'd loop back. That's when I noticed the shape. My brain processed it wrong the first time. That's the part that still bothers me, the way the mind protects you, just for a second. It told me driftwood. It told me old fabric caught on something. And I kept walking because I believed it. I walked closer, actually, out of the kind of idle curiosity you feel on empty mornings when nothing is at stake. Then I saw the hand. Fingers slightly curled. The way your hand looks when you're just on the edge of sleep. I stopped. She was face down at the waterline, half in and half out of the foam. Dark clothing. No shoes. No bag. Just there. Like she had always been there, and I was the one who had arrived. I called for help. My voice came out completely calm, and I remember finding that strange, feeling like I was watching myself from a distance, this person standing on a cold beach, giving coordinates to a stranger on the phone with steady hands. But my whole body was shaking. Not from the cold. The police came. The questions came. I answered everything I could remember. There had been a car in the lot when I arrived. A dark one, parked at an odd angle like someone had left in a hurry, or parked in the dark. By the time the cruisers pulled in, it was gone. I never saw a driver. I never saw anyone else. In the days that followed, the case surfaced in local news. A young woman. No identification. No phone. No jewelry. Nothing that might connect her to anyone, anywhere. The medical examiner estimated she'd been in the water for 2 to 4 days before the tide returned her. Weeks passed. Then months. No family came forward. No missing persons report matched. It was as though the ocean had simply produced her, as though she had never existed on land at all. I kept checking. I looked through databases, followed every update I could find. I called the detective once, about 6 months after. He remembered me immediately. "We haven't closed it," he said. There was something in his voice. Not defeat. More like someone who has learned to carry a thing they know they'll never put down. Here's what I keep coming back to, the detail that lives in the back of my mind at 3 in the morning when the house is quiet. She had nothing on her. No wallet, no phone, no ring, no name. That's not unusual for drowning victims. The water takes things. But the way nothing remained, it felt less like something had been lost, and more like something had been removed. Deliberately. Carefully. Before. I still walk beaches. I don't think I'll ever stop. But I don't go before sunrise anymore. And I never go alone. She deserved a name. She deserved someone to come looking. Somewhere, maybe someone knows exactly who she was. And they haven't said a word. That thought is what keeps me up. Not the shape in the water. The silence after.
I've been diving for 8 years. I know what the bottom looks like. And I know when something is wrong with it. It was a Wednesday morning in early August. I'd driven 5 hours to reach a quiet stretch of coastline along the Gulf, one of those places that doesn't show up on tourism maps. Where the water is warm and the sand is so pale it looks white from the surface. I'd been there 4 times before. I knew that water the way you know a room in your own house. I knew every shelf, every sandbar, every gradual slope. Which is exactly why, when I floated face down that morning and looked at the bottom through my mask, my body went still before my mind did. Something was different. There was a shadow on the seafloor that had no business being there. I hung on the surface for a moment, just breathing. Just looking. It was roughly circular, maybe 15 feet across, positioned about 30 feet out from where I was treading water. My first thought was a dark patch of seagrass. My second thought was a stain from a boat anchor. Neither thought stuck. I took 3 long breaths, filled my lungs, and dove. It was a hole. A perfectly round opening in the seafloor, dropping straight down into absolute darkness. No gradual slope. No rough edges. The walls were sheer, almost smooth, and the limestone at the rim was blindingly white. Not weathered. Not worn. Fresh. Broken open recently, the way a bone looks when it fractures cleanly. I hovered at the edge and looked down. Nothing looked back. Just dark. The kind of dark that has no bottom. Then I felt it. A current. Moving upward. Slow and steady, like breath. Cold water rising from somewhere far below, pressing past my face and hands, several degrees colder than everything around it. That's when something shifted in my chest that I can't fully explain. It wasn't fear of the dark. I've dived in dark water before. It wasn't fear of the depth. I know my limits, and I know when to respect them. It was something older. Something the body knows before the brain can name it. This opening had not been here yesterday. I had swum this exact stretch of water 24 hours before. The seafloor had been flat, featureless, and ordinary. And now there was a hole in the world. I surfaced. I didn't dive again. I reported it. A research team came out about 2 weeks later and classified it as a submarine karst collapse, essentially, the ceiling of an underground limestone cavity giving way. They told me these things happen. Dissolved rock, built-up pressure, structural failure from below. A known geological event. But here's the part the official explanation doesn't cover. When the research team submitted their preliminary assessment, they noted the formation had likely occurred within a window of days, possibly less. They noted the walls showed no signs of gradual erosion. They noted the upward current suggested a pressurized system beneath. And they noted, in a line I read twice and then a third time, that initial assessment dives had not confirmed the depth. The bottom had not been reached. They estimated the hole was at least 90 feet deep based on sonar readings. The sonar return, apparently, had been inconsistent. Irregular. Like the signal was bouncing off something that kept moving. I've thought about that current a lot since then. That slow, cold exhalation rising out of the dark. At the time I told myself it was just pressure releasing. Geology doing what geology does. But breath releases pressure too. That's the thought that comes to me at night, the one I can't reason away. Not the hole itself. Not the darkness inside it. But the way the water moved through my fingers at the rim. Patient. Rhythmic. Like something below was simply waiting to exhale again. I haven't been back to that stretch of coast. I keep telling myself it's because of the drive. 5 hours is a long way. But I know that's not it. The truth is simpler and harder to say out loud. I'm afraid of what I'd find if the hole were bigger. I've read thousands of missing persons files. After a while, they start to blur together. But some of them, a small number, reach through the screen and grab you. This one grabbed me and hasn't let go. I do this work voluntarily. I'm not law enforcement, not a private investigator. I'm just someone who learned, during a long and quiet stretch of time, that there's a database full of unidentified people, real people. With faces and fingerprints and DNA, and not enough eyes looking at it. So I started looking. Cross-referencing entries, chasing leads, trying to connect the unnamed to someone who might be searching. Most cases have at least a thread. A partial name. A cell phone found nearby. Someone, somewhere, who noticed an absence. His case had nothing. He was found on a stretch of coastline in the early morning hours of a spring day. A passing stranger called it in. He was middle-aged, the range listed in the file was unusually wide, which in this work means the condition of the body made precision difficult. Dark clothing. No wallet. No phone. No keys. No identifying documents of any kind. Not one person had reported him missing. I want you to sit with that for a moment. because it means one of two things. Either no one in his life noticed he was gone, or the people who noticed chose not to say so. I spent weeks on his file. I searched regional missing persons databases, veteran records, maritime industry forums, because of the tattoo. On his left forearm, he had a compass rose. Detailed, deliberate work. The kind of tattoo that means something. That someone chose for a reason. A compass rose tells you where you are. It orients you. It says, I am a person who needs to know which direction I'm facing. I kept thinking about that. About the kind of life that makes a man mark himself with a symbol of orientation, and then ends with him washing up somewhere, completely unlocated, completely unknown. The DNA sample went into the federal database. No match came back. A forensic genealogist I collaborate with ran a secondary cross-reference against investigative databases. What returned were fragments. Distant possible connections, family branches several degrees removed, nothing close enough to confirm without living relatives willing to provide comparison samples. To find the relatives, you need the name. To find the name, you need the relatives. The case stayed open. I kept checking it every few weeks, the way you check on something you can't fix but can't abandon either. I read the 2 brief news items that had run locally after the discovery. Short articles. Minimal detail. By the second week, the story had disappeared from the news cycle entirely. The world had moved on. It always does. But here's the detail that lives in me now, the one I think about when I can't sleep. At some point, this man existed fully. He had a morning routine. He knew what his coffee tasted like. He had opinions about things. He chose that tattoo, sat in a chair, watched a needle move across his skin, and decided that a compass was the right image to carry on his body for the rest of his life. And then, somewhere between that moment and the morning a stranger found him on a beach, every connection he had to the world simply stopped. No one filed a report. No one came forward when his description circulated. No one recognized his face. What makes that truly unsettling, what I've never been able to fully explain, is that the silence cuts both ways. It's not just that we don't know who he is. It's that there appears to be no one, anywhere, actively wondering where he went. 2 kinds of quiet. His name unknown to us. His absence unremarked by everyone who knew it. I've worked on a lot of cases where families just hadn't connected to the right database yet, where the match existed, it just needed finding. I hold on to that possibility here too. I have to. But sometimes, late at night, scrolling through the file again, I think about that compass rose. About a man who carried a symbol of knowing where he was. And I wonder if, in the end, he knew exactly where he was going. And went there alone. That's the thought I can't shake. Not the mystery of who he was, but the possibility that someone out there knows the answer, and has decided, for whatever reason, that silence is the right response. The file is still open. I'm still looking.